Hi, my name is Vincent Belcastro and I am the Scrum Master for Team Ctrl+F at the University of Georgia. We are currently in MIST 4620S with Dr. Sesay. And our project for this semester is to design a system in Salesforce to keep track of access requests for the Athena ERP, which is the system used by the University of Georgia. And so today I'm going to walk us through Sprint 1, which is our first sprint for developing the actual project. Sprint 1 consisted of setting up the Salesforce interface that we are currently looking at now, building the database schema based on the domain class diagram provided to us by Dr. Sesay, populating that database with previous records in order to have the database contained with data, and then lastly to start the manage request user story. So to begin, this is our interface here. We set up the account to have a shared email for the whole team so that we can each have access to the account and be able to edit things. Isn't much left to show you with that, so I'm going to jump into the schema that we made here in Schema Builder. So as that loads, alright, so yes, like I said, this schema was provided to us by Dr. Sesay based on a domain class diagram that we had covered in class. First, I'll just go from the middle here. That's our request object, which is the request that that is going to be put into the system. You can see with all these attributes here, a lot of the things describing it, such as when it was the request date and time, the ID of the request, the decision made on that request, also the ability to revoke the request, and that will be done by the data steward, and also the elapsed time that the request has been in the system, so that the data steward knows which request to focus on next. So with that said, I will look at the data steward object here, which has a lookup relationship with the request object. And you can see that data steward is right here within the request object. For the data steward object, we have a lot of the basic attributes. We have the steward ID, of course. We have the name, first name, last name, the ID within the university that the steward has, some contact information, things like that. On the other side, we have a similar lookup relationship with the requester object and the request object. You can see requester is here. Same kind of thing. We have a lot of the basic information for the requester, such as their name, their ID, contact information, things like that. And so yeah, that is our schema. Very basic, but it covers the whole process here. So we actually were not able to populate the database that we created here because we were under the assumption that we would be provided with data for this database, some previous data, previous requests, requesters, current data stewards, but we actually will not be provided with that kind of information. So we learned that halfway through our sprint. So while it is on our sprint backlog, we did not get to do that, and we actually will not do that. It is not necessary. Also, the manage request user story that we had planned to do for sprint 1 had to be postponed to sprint 2 as we had some issues in confusion rather, with how to create instances for this request object that we made. And I will cover that in sprint 2, along with managing the other objects here. So that in total wraps up our sprint 1 review, and I look forward to continue working and covering sprint 2 with you.